1921, 10,000 miners gathered together to unionize the southern West Virginia coalfields to fight for their health and for their safety. They were met on Blair Mountain and a battle ensued. Today, Blair Mountain is threatened by mountaintop removal coal mining.
They strip away the entire forest, bulldoze away the soil, and start blasting. It wouldn't happen at Antietam.
What they would like more than anything in the world, these giant corporations, is to destroy this great monument to the union movement, the American middle class, to American values and American democracy, and that's Blair Mountain.
And I've come to the conclusion the history of Blair Mountain actually is a motivating factor behind the industry wanting to blow it up.
They were asking for an 8-hour workday, to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, to be paid by the hour instead of the ton, so that they could have a stable income and not work, 14 hours. They weren't asking for the sun and the moon. They were just asking for human decency, basically.
If you had money coming to you, you was paid in scrip.
No, no. There wasn't no such thing as you having any money coming to you for your job. You didn't make enough to even feed your man and his wife.
But the most important thing that happened during that period to restore our democracy was the emergence of the union movement. And that really, and the biggest battleground, the frontline battleground for that battle was on Blair Mountain.
And when they realized that the state government wasn't going to help them out, and they realized that the national government wasn't going to help them out, and they were starving, in tents, that's when they grew desperate, and that's when they grew violent.
Social movements that are nonviolent, that have been successful, have mostly developed in the 20th century, Gandhi and then King. And until, in 1921, that hadn't happened yet.
Frankie said, the only way you can get your rights is with a high-powered rifle. And he told them to go home and await the call to march.
They started out on foot. At one point, probably around Danville, they ended up hijacking a train.
There was an army waiting for them at Blair Mountain. This was an army made up of state police, of mine guards, and of citizens.
And then what actually brought the whole thing to an end was that federal troops from Kentucky were called in. Well, as soon as the miners heard that the federal troops were coming, they thought, first of all, that the federal troops would be on their side, and they'd try to work on the side of justice rather than on the side of the coal operators. Indeed, they didn't. They went in and started arresting people, so the miners then fled. They really didn't want to fight the U.S. Army.
It's a bittersweet time because, on the one hand, they lost, and the union was broken for the next 12 years. But on the other hand, it's one of those mileposts that you look back on and say that was a really important moment. And in fact, even though it initially led to a setback, it finally led to going forward.
Yeah, brings back a lot of memories. Sure does.
Blair Mountain means the start of this union in here. That's 90% of it. That's where it started from. Blair Mountain.
I'm a charter member of the United Mine Workers of West Virginia.
You've got rights when you've got a union, ain't you, buddy?
I become the mine committeeman, the safety committeeman, and the hospital committeeman. I didn't let them die with nothing.
I think the symbol that Blair Mountain represents of people standing up to the coal industry is one that they would just as soon have obliterated.
Yeah. See, they're going to fill this hollow in here too. This is going to be
the
Atkins Fork Valley Field right here. So it's probably going to meet their valley field over here, a couple branches. Yeah. There was a dirt road that went up the hollow there and through the pass here, Low Gap, and we know there was a lot of fighting going on there. That's the valley field right there for the Atkins Fork mine, right there. If you walk up that hollow, you'll be on top where all the artifacts are.
We're going in with metal detectors. We're not finding anything made after 1921. That means that those artifacts are dated before 1921, which puts them right at the time of this battle.
Most of the miners probably just pulled their squirrel gun or their deer gun out of the closet and a couple of boxes of ammunition, and they went to war.
And I found miners' bullets coming all the way up, right? And so now we're seeing the defensive parts right here, a whole bunch of fired rounds, and then we just now found an incoming round.
Now, when you have a lot of spent bullets like that, the lead part, then you think, hey, there was some pretty close quarters here. And so you think the miners were really putting the heat on them.
Right down over the hill, we found some patterning of pistol rounds, which are short-range weapons.
But the things you find in the soil don't lie. They tell the truth. And they've been there for 90 years, and then all of a sudden, they start testifying.
We know that they broke through at Crooked Creek Gap. I think that they broke through at Mill Creek Gap. And what we're finding here with the archaeology is that they possibly were breaking through here. This piece of land right here is one of the most significant stories in American history. And if it's destroyed, then it's going to be gone forever.
Essentially, you're taking the most incredibly biodiverse temperate forest on Earth and this amazing aquatic resource and poisoning it, annihilating it, and destroying it forever in order to get to the coal. And at the base of the mountains where this is going on, communities are being driven to extinction.
You just couldn't turn a company loose like A.T. Massey because they'd fill Tug River up. They'd put the river over here,
The coal companies are willing to do anything to get at that coal, including destroying a wonderful historical site that belongs right up at the top of the historical battlefields in our country.
It made it onto the registry, and then all of a sudden the rug was pulled out from under those people who are trying to preserve the mountain. And I think it was pretty underhanded the way that happened.
And so they gave us a list, we commented on it. They used a different list, we commented on that, and they said that it's too bad, it's too late, the comment period was over. Part of the objectors who signed on to objecting the nomination, 2 of them are deceased. They've been dead one of them for over 20 years. And so there's just a huge amount of discrepancies.
This 1,600 acres is roughly what we came up with that included most of the archaeological evidence. And the problem with it right now is that 1,600 acres just happen to have millions of tons of coal underneath, and of course the coal companies are vying for that coal. They want to actually blow the tops of the mountains up so they can get to the coal.
I don't approve it. I don't approve
it at all.
I don't approve
I hope they stop it cold.
You go down to Mingo County, you go down to Logan County in southern West Virginia where that battle was waged in 1921, and people who are still alive remember their ancestors who fought in that battle.
We're going to save Blair Mountain, by God, because that's the working man's symbol. Too many people died that day, so y'all can be speaking here tonight. Too many.
Blair Mountain, it's a part of us. It's like fiber, in the clothing, it's just one little piece that kind of puts the whole puzzle together.
If I was still in there, I'd never stop till they run that plumb out of the damn country. I mean, if it took a war, we would be right there in it.
Look, you couldn't even protect this one very special place. Why don't you just give up? Now, we're not going to do that. Not going to give up on Blair Mountain. We're not going to give up on any mountain.
These mountains here, this is my Blair Mountain right here at Metter. Part of it's been blew off. Well, if you don't like mountains, go to Kansas or someplace, Don't tell me to leave. I'm a pioneer family here. I was here before the coal companies come, before the politicians' buddies came into this area. My family had taken up roots in this area. Well, I hope it turns into everybody's Blair Mountain. That's all we can do is hope and fight, and that's something we'll continue to do.
In the West Virginia coal fields back in 1921, the National Guard, State Police, and the coal company guns shot down 100 miners. The bosses saw his pawns, and And up on old Blair Mountain, the ghosts are feeling strong.
So now there's an effort to get Blair Mountain listed as the lands unsuitable for mining, and you can help. Please follow the links at the end of this video to know how to do that. Thank you so much.
Shot down at the Logan County Courthouse, cold cops fired around. 10,000 Union miners were bloody Mingo bound, and they say up on Blair Mountain you still can hear the sound.